All right, good morning, guys. It is Thursday, March 19th. I told you guys I would hop on to give you a little bit of introduction to Of Mice and Men. There's 4 slides I'm going to post with a couple pictures and just a little information about migrant farm workers. It'll help you. There's also a Google Doc up that I'm going to take you through and give you all the rules and what we're going to be doing. If you are listening to this and you're watching this later on after the time that we've allotted for our class, that's okay. You can still kind of hop on and look at the Google Doc. It should help you to navigate at least the first chapter. I would appreciate if you did that, even if you weren't able to join us on the time that we posted. If you can kind of just look at the document and answer the questions still and kind of see what other people responded, it'll just be helpful for you in the long run. I'm also posting a PDF file of Mice and Men. All right, I have my little book right here, but you guys don't have it. We didn't get a chance to give you the books before you left, so the PDF file will suffice. The good thing about this book is that I was probably going to give it to you on your own anyway to do. It's really not difficult at all. You guys can totally read it by yourselves probably in a couple days. It's very short. I'm going to give us about a week or so to do it. Again, this is all new to me as it is to you, so we're kind of just doing the best we can here. And we just have to keep communicating as best we can to figure out if this is something that works or doesn't work. If we just want to go back to the old way of just posting questions and answers, we'll see. We're learning as we're going. Those of you who responded to the question yesterday promptly, I appreciate it. Those of you who I haven't really heard from yet signed on. I posted some work. I'm hoping that you guys are kind of getting yourselves up and ready to go in a routine so that you can start getting some stuff done. We are going to move forward. And like I said, I have been directed by the administration to keep you guys accountable via Power School. Again, the first couple days we're going to figure things out, but there will be assignments that you need to do and that you need to turn in the time that I posted. If I'm posting an assignment and there is a due date with a time, please adhere to that specific time, okay? If it says I need it done by 5 p.m., I need it done by 5 p.m. I'll post it with more than enough time for you to do that. Yesterday was a little bit of an exception because I posted it late. I'm trying to figure this out. But I need you guys to really adhere to the due dates as best you can. We're all kind of stuck inside doing what we need to be doing. So you should be able to carve some time out to get this work done. And if not, if there is a problem, if there's an emergency, you know to email me, get in touch with me. We can always work things out. I'm pretty understanding, I think. You guys might not agree, but I think I am. And yeah, that's kind of how we're going to go about this. All right. So what I want you to do is, you're going to open up the PDF of Mice and Men. You'll have this video and then you'll also have the Google Doc open. So we're going to kind of toggle back and forth. I don't know how we're going to do it. We're going to try to make it work. I'm going to be on here and then I'll tell you when you need to pause. This lighting is terrible. Whatever. When I need to pause, and then we're just gonna try to take it from there and see what we get to. All right. I'd like to take you to the first chapter. Again, if you don't have time and you need to stop me and go on your way and then come back later on and kind of get through the chapter, that's on you. That's up to you. I kind of really can't control everything from over here. It's kind of hard for me to deal with that, but I'm doing the best I can. So if you can sign on to the Google Doc, the first thing I want you to do when you sign on is just to write your name, please. So everyone can do that now. Write your name and just check in. Tell me, how are you doing? What's going on with you? Let's just kind of have a little informal check-in, all right? So we'll do that. And then right after that, I want you to do impressions from the pre-reading. So I gave you guys a little, normally as a packet, but it's a handout with a bunch of pictures that I asked you guys questions that's supposed to kind of help you get the setting of what's going to be happening and where this book is taking place. I can't even talk today. So if you can answer those 2 questions first. Sign on and check in, and then give me impressions from pre-reading. Pause me right now, and then I'll hop on the Google Doc and tell you when you guys can restart up the video. Sound good? Okay. Okay, so now that we've done the sign on the check-in, you guys have given me all the impressions for the pre-reading. I want to go to the first page of A Mice and Men, please. So if you guys can just Open up your PDF file. I hope it's working. All right. Okay. A few miles south of Soledad, the Salinas River drops in close to the hillside bank and runs deep and green. The water is warm too, for it has slipped twinkling over the yellow sand in the sunlight before reaching the narrow pool. On one side of the river, the golden foothill slopes curve up to the strong and rocky Gavilan Mountains, but on the valley side, the water is lined with trees, willows fresh and green with every spring, carrying in their lower leaf junctures the debris of the winter's flooding, and sycamores with mottled, white, recumbent limbs and branches that arch over the pool. On the sandy bank under the trees, the leaves lie deep and so crisp that a lizard makes a great skittering if he runs among them. Rabbits come out of the brush to sit on the sand in the evening, and the damp flats are covered with the night tracks of coons, and with the spread pad of dogs from the ranches, and with the split wedge tracks of deer that come to drink in the dark. There is a path of the willows and among the sycamores, a path beaten hard by boys coming down from the ranches to swim in the deep pool, and beaten hard by tramps who come wearily down from the highway in the evening to jungle up near water. In front of the low horizontal limb of a giant sycamore, there is an ash pile made by many fires. The limb is worn smooth by men who have sat on it. Evening of a hot day started a little wind to moving among the leaves. The shade climbed up the hills toward the top. On the sandbanks, the rabbit sat as quietly as little gray sculptured stones. And then from the direction of the state highway came the sound of footsteps on crisp sycamore leaves. The rabbits hurried noiselessly for cover. A stilted heron labored up into the air and pounded down the river. For a moment the place was lifeless, and then two men emerged from the path and came into the opening by the green pool. They had walked in single file down the path, and even in the open one stayed behind the other. Both were dressed in denim trousers and in denim coats with brass buttons. Both wore black, shapeless hats, and both carried tight blanket rolls slung over their shoulders. The first man was small and quick, dark of face, with restless and sharp, strong features. Every part of him was defined. Small, strong hands, slender arms, a thin and bony nose. Behind him walked his opposite, a huge man, shapeless of face, with large pale eyes, with wide sloping shoulders, and he walked heavily, dragging his feet a little, the way a bear drags his paws. His arms did not swing at his sides, but hung loosely. All right, so what I want you guys to do right now is you're going to pause in a moment. I want you to answer the third question, which is going to be about, after reading pages 1 through 2, 1 and 2, to talk to me about the setting, right? The thoughts that you had about the setting, the impressions that you have. So go ahead and do that now. Answer that third question. You can pause me. Okay. After you've read that and answered that question, we're going to kind of move on, all right? The first man stopped short in the clearing, and the follower nearly ran over him. He took off his hat and wiped the sweatband with his forefinger and snapped the moisture off. His huge companion dropped his blankets and flung himself down and drank from the surface of the green pool. Drank with long gulps, snorting into the water like a horse. The small man stepped nervously beside him. "Lenny," he said sharply. "Lenny, for God's sakes, don't drink so much." Lenny continued to snort into the pool, and the small man leaned over and shook him by the shoulder. "Lenny, you're going to be sick like you were last night." Lenny dipped his whole head under, hat and all, and then he sat up on the bank and his hat dripped down his blue coat and ran down his back. "That's good," he said. "You drink some, George. You take a good big drink," and he smiled happily. George unslung his bindle and dropped it gently on the bank. "I ain't sure it's good water," he said. "Looks kind of scummy." Lenny dabbled his big paw in the water and wiggled his fingers so the water rose in little splashes. Rings widened across the pool to the other side and came back. Lenny watched them go. "Look, George, look what I done." Lenny knelt beside the pool and drank from his hand with quick scoops. "Tastes all right," he admitted. "Don't really seem to be running, though. You never ought to drink water when it ain't running, Lenny," he said hopelessly. "You drink out of a gutter if you was thirsty." He threw a scoop of water into his face and rubbed it about with his hand, under his chin and around the back of his neck. Then he replaced his hat, pushed back himself from the river, drew up his knees and embraced them. Lenny, who had been watching, imitated George exactly. He pushed himself back, drew up his knees, embraced them, and looked over to George to see whether he had it just right. He pulled his hat down a little more over his eyes, the way George's hat was. George stared morosely at the water. The rims of his eyes were red with sun glare, and he said angrily, "We could just as well have rode clear to the ranch if that bastard bus driver knew what he was talking about. Just a little stretch down the highway, he says. Just a little stretch. Goddamn near 4 miles, that's what it was. Didn't want to stop at the ranch gate, that's what. Too goddamn lazy to pull up. Wonder he isn't too damn good to stop in Soledad at all. Kicks us out and says, just a little stretch down the road. I bet it was more than 4 miles away. Damn hot day. Lenny looked timidly over to him. George? Yeah, what do you want? Where are we going, George? The little man jerked down the brim of his hat and scowled over at Lenny. So you forgot that already, did you? I gotta tell you again, do I? Jesus Christ, you're a crazy bastard. I forgot, Lenny said softly. I tried not to forget. Honest to God, I did, George. Okay, I'll tell you again. I ain't got nothing to do. Might as well spend my time telling you things, then you forget them, and I tell you again. Tried and tried, said Lenny, but it didn't do no good. I remember about the rabbits, George. The hell with the rabbits. That's all you can ever remember is them rabbits. Okay. So I want to, again, stop. I read to about page 4 for me. It's a little bit different for you, but if you're following along, it should be okay. I want you to answer the next question number 4 about the characters. All right? What do you see? What's going on here? How would you describe them right now? So answer that question. You can pause me and answer that question. So pause. All right. We're going to keep reading. I'm going to read till around page 7. We're going to get through as much as we possibly can. All right. Okay. Now you listen this time and you get to remember so that we don't get in no trouble. You remember sitting in that gutter on Howard Street and watching that blackboard? Lenny's face broke into a delighted smile. Why, sure, George. I remember that. But what'd we do then? I remember some girls come by and you say, the hell with what I says. You remember us going into Murray and Reddy's and they give us work cards and bus tickets? Oh, sure, George. I remember that now. His hands went quickly into his side coat pockets. He said gently, George, I ain't got mine. I must have lost it. He looked down at the ground in despair. You never had none, you crazy bastard. I got both of them here. Think I'd let you carry your own work card? Lenny grinned with relief. I thought I put it in my side pocket. And his hand went into that pocket again. George looked sharply at him. What'd you take out of that pocket? Ain't a thing in my pocket, Lenny said cleverly. I know there ain't. You got it in your hand. What you got in your hand? Hiding it? I ain't got nothing, George, honest. Come on, give it here. Lenny closed his hand away from George's direction. It's only a mouse, George. A mouse? A live mouse? Uh-huh. Just a dead mouse, George. I didn't kill it. Honest, I found it. I found it dead. Give it here, said George. Oh, let me have it, George. Give it here. Lenny's closed hand and slowly obeyed. George took the mouse and threw it across the pool to the other side among the brush. What do you want of a dead mouse anyways? I could pet it with my thumb when we walked along, said Lenny. Well, we ain't petting no mice while you walk with me. You remember where we're going now? Lenny looked startled and then in embarrassment held his face against his knees. I forgot again. Jesus Christ, George said resigningly. Well, look, we're going to work on a ranch like the one we come up from up north. Up north? In Weed. Oh, sure, I remember. In Weed. All right, I'm going to stop. There's no question, I don't think. At one point, I think on the dock, I don't want to go back right now. Actually, maybe I will. Hold on. 1 second, guys. Okay. So I went back to the document and I asked if anyone has anything they need to bring up or ask at this moment in time, right? So we met these 2 characters and we looked at the setting a little bit. If there's anything you want to bring up at this time that you noticed, that you want to talk about, you guys can kind of do that now. You can either pause me or we can keep going. That's completely up to you. We'll pause. We'll pause for a little bit, okay? And then I'll come back and I'll see if no one has any questions. We can kind of just restart, all right? So you can pause me again. Wouldn't it be fun if you guys paused me on like a normal day at work, right? Like I don't feel like listening to myself anymore. Pause. Oh no. I'm sure some of you would enjoy that. All right, moving on. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. I also want you to think about the fact that Lenny had a dead mouse in his pocket, and that he wanted to pet it. I want you to think about what kind of person, what kind of adult male, right, would do this, and why is he doing it? What's he doing it for? To have something in his pocket to constantly pet, right? Why? What purpose would that serve? Okay. And then I also want you to think about when you guys were younger, right? Like if you sucked your thumb or you had a pacifier. Some of you, my brother used to have like a sheepskin, we call it like lammy, and he would suck his thumb and like rub it on his face, like to help him fall asleep. It was almost like a comforting way to do things. And people that's when you were younger, right? So I want you to think about that as we kind of talk a little bit more about Lenny later on and today. All right? Okay, let's keep going. That ranch we're going to is right down there about a quarter mile. We're going to go in and see the boss. Now look, I'll give him the work tickets, but you ain't going to say a word. You just stand there and don't say nothing. If he finds out what a crazy bastard you are, we won't get no job. But if you sees your work before he hears you talk, we're set. You got that? Sure, George. Sure, I got it. Okay. Now, when we go in to see the boss, what you going to do? Lenny thought. His face grew tight with thought. I ain't going to say nothing. Just going to stand there. Good boy. That's swell. You said over 2-3 times, so you sure won't forget it. Lenny droned to himself softly. I ain't gonna say nothing. I ain't gonna say nothing. I ain't gonna say nothing. Okay, said George, and you ain't gonna do no bad things like you done in weed, neither. Lenny looked puzzled. Like I done in weed? Oh, so you forgot that too, did ya? Well, I ain't gonna remind ya, fear you do it again. A light of understanding broke out Lenny's face. They run us out of weed, he exploded triumphantly. Run us out? Hell, said George disgustedly. We run. They was looking for us, but they didn't catch us. Lenny giggled happily. I didn't forget that, you bet. George lay back on the sand and crossed his hands under his head, and Lenny imitated him, raising his head to see whether he was doing it right. God, you're a lot of trouble, said George. I get along so easy and so nice if I didn't have you on my tail. I could live so easy and maybe have a girl. For a moment, Lenny lay quiet, and then he said hopefully, We're going to work on a ranch, George. All right, you got that, but we're going to sleep here because I got a reason. The day was going fast now, and only the tops of the Gavilan Mountains flamed with the light of the sun that had gone from the valley. A water snake slipped along the pool, its head held up like a little periscope. The reeds jerked slightly in the current. Far off toward the highway, a man shouted something, and another man shouted back. The sycamore limbs rustled under a little wind that died immediately. George, why aren't we going on to the ranch to get some supper? They got supper at the ranch. Okay. Again, I want you to pause one more moment in a second, and I want you to answer the next question. We're through to my page 7. So I want to ask you what you think is surprising about George and Lenny's friendship. So pause it and answer that question for me, please. All right, welcome back. We're going to keep rolling on. George rolled onto his side. No reason at all for you. I like it here. Tomorrow, we're going to go to work. I seen thrashing machines on the way down. That means we'll be bucking grain bags, busting a gut. Tonight, I'm going to lay right here and look up. I like it. Lenny got up on his knees and looked down at George. Ain't we going to have no supper? Sure we are. If you gather up some dead willow sticks, I got 3 cans of beans in my bindle. You get a fire ready. I'll give you a match when you get the sticks together. Then we'll heat the beans and have supper. Lenny said, I like beans with ketchup. Well, we ain't got no ketchup. You go get wood. And don't you fool around. It'll be dark before long. Lenny lumbered to his feet and disappeared in the brush. George lay where he was and whistled softly to himself. There were sounds of splashings on the river in the direction Lenny had taken. George stopped whistling and listened. Poor bastard, he said softly, and then went on whistling again. In a moment, Lenny came crashing back to the brush. He carried one small willow stick in his hand, and George sat up. All right, he said brusquely. Give me that mouse. But Lenny made an elaborate pantomime of innocence. What mouse, George? I ain't got no mouse. George held out his hand. Come on, give it to me. You ain't putting nothing over. Lenny hesitated, backed away, looked wildly at the brush line as though he contemplated running for his freedom, and George said coldly, You gonna give me that mouse, or do I have to sock you? Give you what, George? You know goddamn well what. I want that mouse. Lenny reluctantly reached into his pocket, and his voice broke a little. I don't know why I can't keep it. It ain't nobody's mouse. I didn't steal it. I found it lying right beside the road. George's hand remained outstretched imperiously. Slowly like a terrier who doesn't want to bring a ball to its master, Lenny approached, drew back, and approached again. George snapped his fingers sharply, and at the sound, Lenny laid the mouse in his hand. I wasn't doing nothing bad with it, George. Just stroking it. George stood up and threw the mouse as far as he could into the darkening brush, and then he stepped to the pool and washed his hands. You crazy fool. Don't you think I could see your feet wet where you were across the river to get it? He heard Lenny's whimpering cry and wheeled about, blubbering like a baby. Jesus Christ, a big guy like you? Lenny's lip quivered and tears started in his eyes. Aw, Lenny, George put his hand on Lenny's shoulders. I ain't taking it away just for meanness. That mouse ain't fresh, Lenny. And besides, you've broken it, petting it. You got another mouse that's fresh, and I'll let you keep it a little while. Lenny sat down on the ground and hung his head dejectedly. I don't know where there is no other mouse. I remember lady used to give him to me. Everyone she got, but that lady ain't here. George scoffed. Lady, huh? Don't even remember who that lady was. That was your own Aunt Clara, and she stopped giving him to you, because you always killed him. All right. I want you to think about the words that Steinbeck, our author, okay, is using to describe Lenny. So I want to take some time for you guys to kind of look into the book. You can pause me. And what words in particular is he using to describe our character, right? We know there's George, we know there's Lenny, they have a friendship, right? Think about who they are, think about how they're different, but think about the diction, right? Think about the words that he's using. Why is he using those words? So I want you to go ahead and answer the next question. We just finished up my page 9. All right. Yours shouldn't be too far off, but we're going to do the best we can. And just kind of pause me and answer that question. All right. And I'll come back on and tell you when you should put me back on the screen. Okay. All right. We're going to keep moving. Lenny looked sadly up at him. They was so little, he said apologetically. I'd pet them, and pretty soon they bit my fingers, and I pinched their heads little, and then they was dead, because they was so little. I wish we get the rabbits pretty soon, George. They ain't so little. The hell with the rabbits, and you ain't to be trusted with no live mice. Your Aunt Clara gave you a rubber mouse, and you wouldn't have nothing to do with it. It wasn't no good to pet, said Lenny. The flame of the sunset lifted from the mountain tops, and dusk came into the valley, and a half-darkness came in along the willows and sycamores. A big carp rose to the surface of the pool, gulped air, and then sank mysteriously into the dark water again, leaving widening rings in the water. Overhead, the leaves whisked again, and little puffs of willow cotton blew down and landed on the pool's surface. You gonna get that wood? George demanded. There's plenty right up against the back of the sycamore. Floodwater wood. Now you get it. Lenny went behind the tree and brought out a litter of dried leaves and twigs. He threw them in a heap on the old ash pile and went back for more and more. It was almost night now. A dove's wings whistled over the water. George walked to the fire pile and lighted the dry leaves. The flame cracked up among the twigs and fell to work. George undid his bindle and brought out 3 cans of beans. He stood them about the fire, close in against the blaze, but not quite touching the flames. There's enough beans for 4 men, George said. Lenny watched him from over the fire, and he said patiently, I like 'em with ketchup. Well, we ain't got any, George exploded. Whatever we ain't got, that's what you want. God's almighty. If I was alone, I could live so easily. I could get a job and work and no trouble, no mess at all. When the end of the month come, I could take my $50 and go into town and get whatever I want. Why, I could stay in a cat house all night. I could eat any place I want, hotel or any place, and order any damn thing I could think of. Cat house is a place with a lot of women. Okay, just letting you know. So that's that. And I could do all that every damn month. Get a gallon of whiskey or sit in the pool room and play cards or shoot pool. Lenny knelt and looked over the fire at angry George, and Lenny's face was drawn with terror. And what I got, George went on furiously. I got you. You can't keep a job, and you lose me every job I get. Just keep shoving me all over the country all the time. Ain't that the worst? You get in trouble, you do bad things, and I gotta get you out. His voice rose nearly to a shout. You crazy son of a bitch. You keep me in hot water all the time. He took on the elaborate manner of little girls when they were mimicking one another. Just want to feel that girl's dress. Just want to pet it like it was a mouse. Well, how the hell did she know you just want to feel her dress? She jerks back and you hold on to it like it was a mouse. She yells, and we got to hide in an irrigation ditch all day with guys looking for us. We had to sneak out in the dark and get out of the country. All the time, something like that. All the time. I wish I could have put you in a cage with about 1 million mice and let you have fun. His anger left him suddenly. He looked across the fire at Lenny's anguished face, and then he looked ashamedly at the flames. It was quite dark now, but the fire lighted the trunks of the trees and the curving branches overhead. Lenny crawled slowly and cautiously around the fire until he was close to George. He sat back on his heels. George turned the bean cans so that another side faced the fire. He pretended to be unaware of Lenny so close beside him. George, very softly. No answer. George! What do you want? I was only fooling, George. I don't want no ketchup. I wouldn't eat no ketchup if it was right here beside me. If it was here, you could have some. But I wouldn't eat none, George. I'd leave it all for you. You could cover your beans with it, and I wouldn't touch none of it. George still stared morosely at the fire. When I think of the swell time I could have without you, I go nuts. I never get no peace. Lenny still knelt. He looked off into the darkness across the river. George, you want I should go away and leave you alone? Where the hell could you go? Well, I could. I could go off in the hills there, someplace I'd find a cave. Yeah? How'd you eat? You ain't got sense enough to find nothing to eat. I'd find things, George. I don't need no nice food with ketchup. I'd lay out in the sun and nobody'd hurt me. And if I found a mouse, I could keep it. Nobody'd take it away from me. George looked quickly and searchingly at him. I've been mean, ain't I? If you don't want me, I can go off in the hills and find a cave. I can go away any time. No, look, I was just fooling Lenny because I want you to stay with me. Trouble with mice is you always kill them. He paused. Tell you what I'll do, Lenny. First chance I get, I'll give you a pup. Maybe you wouldn't kill it. That'd be better than mice, and you could pet it harder. Lenny avoided the bait. He had sensed his advantage. You don't want me. You only just got to say so. And I'll go off on those hills right there, right up in those hills and live by myself. And I won't get no my soul from me. George said, I want you to stay with me, Lenny. Jesus Christ, somebody'd shoot you for a coyote if you was by yourself. No, you stay with me. Your Aunt Clara wouldn't like you running off by yourself, even if she is dead. Lenny spoke craftily. Tell me, like you done before? Tell you what, about the rabbits. George snapped. You ain't gonna put nothing over on me. Lenny pleaded. Come on, George. Tell me. Please, George, like you done before. You get a kick out of that, don't you? All right, I'll tell you, and then we'll eat our supper. George's voice became deeper. He repeated his words rhythmically as though he had said them many times before. Guys like us that work on ranches are the loneliest guys in the world. They got no family. They don't belong no place. They come to a ranch and work up a steak and then go into a town and blow their steak, and the first thing you know is they are pounding their tail on some other ranch. They ain't got nothing to look ahead to. So they're talking about the life of a migrant worker, which I posted on the slideshow for you guys. The slideshow, the migrant worker articles I posted are about migrant workers more currently, all right? But in the 1930s, in California especially, during the Dust Bowl, which I kind of give you a little information about, and I'll actually maybe post another thing about the Dust Bowl. You guys read Out of the Dust, most of you guys in 7th or 8th grade. So, but I'll go back. Economy was down. There was depression. The farmers who really relied on making money with their crops were kind of out of luck. So a lot of the farmers had to sell their land and go and travel and work on other people's land, which is not it was the opposite of their American dream, right? And so George and Lenny are migrant workers, and what they're talking about is kind of the life of that, right? Going from place to place, making money, spending that money on whatever they could. A lot of times people would spend on alcohol or women, right? And then have to go from ranch to ranch, farm to farm to kind of make a living, which is not really ideal. Over the course of the years, we still have migrant workers. It's evolved into a different, a lot of people that are migrant workers now are immigrants, right? And so we see that kind of difference. And I want you to just think about how, the economic disparity, right? What has the circumstances of someone going into that line of work. Usually people are poor and they need money. And so like I said, I posted 2 articles on that. And you guys can kind of look at that and kind of give you a better idea of their lifestyle at this time. All right? Okay. Lenny was delighted. That's it. Now tell how it is with us. George went on. With us, it ain't like that. We got a future. We got somebody to talk to that gives a damn about us. We don't have to sit in no bar room, blowing in our jack just because we got no place to go. If them other guys gets in jail, they can rot for all anybody gives a damn, but not us. Lenny broke in. But not us? And why? Because I got you to look after me, and you got me to look after you, and that's why. He laughed delightedly. Go on now, George. You got it by heart. You could do it yourself. No, you. I forget some of the things. Tell me how it's going to be. Okay, someday we're going to get the jack together and we're going to have a little house and a couple of acres and a cow and some pigs and live off the fat of the land, Lenny shouted, and have rabbits. Go on, George. Tell about what we're going to have in the garden and tell about the rabbits and the cages and about the rain and the water and the stove and how thick the cream is on the milk like you can hardly cut it. Tell about that, George. Why don't you do it yourself? You know all of it. No, you tell it. It ain't the same if I tell it. Go on, George. How do I get to tend the rabbits? Well, said George, we'll have a big vegetable patch and a rabbit hutch and chickens, and when it rains in the winter, we'll just say the hell with going to work, and we'll build up a fire in the stores and sit around it and listen to the rain coming down the roof. Nuts. He took out his pocket knife. I ain't got time for no more. He drove his knife to the top of one of the bean cans, sawed at the top, and passed the can to Lenny. Then he opened a second can. From his side pocket, he brought out 2 spoons and passed one of them to Lenny. They sat by the fire and filled their mouths with beans and chewed mightily. A few beans slipped out of the side of Lenny's mouth, and George gestured with his spoon. What are you going to say tomorrow when the boss asks you questions? Lenny stopped chewing and swallowed. His face was concentrated. I ain't going to say a word. Good boy. That's fine, Lenny. Maybe you're getting better. Maybe we get the couple of acres. I can let you tend the rabbits all right, especially if you remember as good as that. Lenny choked with pride. I can remember, he said. George motioned with his spoon again. Look, Lenny, I want you to look around here. You can remember this place, can't you? The ranch is about a quarter mile up that way. Just follow the river. Sure, said Lenny. I can remember this. Didn't I remember about not going to say a word? Of course you did. Well, look, Lenny, if you just happen to get in trouble like you always done before, I want to come right back here and hide in the brush. Hide in the brush, said Lenny slowly. Hide in the brush till I come for you. Can you remember that? Sure I can, George. Hide in the brush till you come. But you ain't going to get in no trouble, because if you do, I won't let you tend the rabbits. He threw his empty bean can off into the trash. I won't get in no trouble, George. I ain't going to say a word. Okay. Bring your bindle over here by the fire. It's going to be nice sleeping here. Look up, and the leaves. Don't build up no more fire. We'll let her die down. They made their beds in the sand, and as the blaze dropped from the fire, the sphere of light grew smaller. The curling branches disappeared, and only a faint glimmer showed where the tree trunks were. From the darkness, Lenny called, "George, you asleep?" "No. What do you want?" "Let's have different color rabbits, George." "Sure we will," George said sleepily. "Red and blue and green rabbits, Lenny. Millions of them." "Furry ones," George said, "like I see in the fair in Sacramento." "Sure, furry ones. 'Cause I can just as well go away, George, and live in a cave." "You can just as well go to hell," said George. "Shut up now." The red light dimmed on the coals. Up the hill from the river, a coyote yammered, and a dog answered from the other side of the stream. The sycamore leaves whispered in a little night breeze. Okay. So that's the end of chapter 1. I want you to answer the last question, well, the second to last question, which is, what is their dream, right? What's their plan? What are they trying to do? So I want you to answer that. And then at the end, if you guys can just give me some feedback on what you think this book is going to be about. If you have any questions or impressions, kind of let me know. And if you think that this was helpful, I am not going to read to you every time. Don't worry. I don't know if that's annoying for you. I know when I was in high school, I didn't like people reading to me, but I did want to take you through the first chapter. And also I think it's kind of comforting, maybe for some of you, to have this type of, I guess, interaction, to keep, like I said, the normalcy and familiarity. I am going to keep you working, so I will post either tonight or tomorrow morning an assignment for chapter 2 and possibly chapter 3, which you guys can kind of, like I said, this is simple, so you guys can do this on your own, but you will have assignments. Now, if you like this, it won't just be question answer. What I could do is I could, again, hop on the recording, and we could do different type of like lessons where I could put a hyperdoc or put a Padlet, and we can do silent conversations, or I can ask you to write responses. Again, not just like question answer, because that gets really boring. But again, I'm not going to read to you every single time. It's not going to be a half-hour video every single time. But if we can, I guess I'm just asking for you guys to let me know how this worked for you, and if you'd like to do something like this again. Period 9, one of the girls, Jess, you said something about Discord. I don't know what that is. I'm going to try to look into it today. If you have any more information, you can kind of email me and share it with me. They don't want us to do live streams. I guess they don't want us to do it in live time, so I guess this is okay because I'm recording just my face. It's just me who could possibly be out there. They don't want you guys out there, which I get. You know what I mean? I don't want anyone snapping anything and putting stuff. You guys are minors. So I don't know what Discord is. I don't know if it requires a live stream, but I'm going to look into it and see. That might be something we could use. I don't know. Like I said, we're kind of just learning as we go. But I'm also going to try to fix the lighting. Tomorrow, if I'm recording, maybe I'll go in the living room, or I'll turn it around. You guys can see my kitchen, which is very exciting, I'm sure, for you, because I think but I'm going to sign off now. I want you guys, like I said, we're going to end, do the last couple questions, leave some feedback, and then just kind of like you've been doing, keeping communication, stay tuned on Classroom. I'm going to post the next assignment for chapter 2, either later tonight or tomorrow morning. All right. And you'll have the weekend to get this done. This is going to be, I guess, due by, let's say, I don't know, like 5 p.m. today. All right. I'll put an announcement on Classroom. But if you can get this done by 5 p.m. today, whether you were doing it in real time with us at our meeting time or later on, that would be great. Just so I can see who everyone is, and if you were checking in. So the thing that I asked you to do in the very beginning, to check in and say your name, is important for me. All right, because I need to know who's seeing this stuff, who's taking the time to check in with me, so that I can figure out how we're gonna move forward on this. All right. I hope everyone's doing well. I hope you guys are, like I said, resting and doing what you need, but I also hope that you're keeping a routine. Try to get up in the morning and shower and have breakfast, and don't stay in bed till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. All right. There is work to be done. There's stuff to be done. You guys should stay active, go for walks. It's not a vacation, so I'm hoping that you guys are, keeping busy, but also, taking time for yourself and understanding that this is a very weird situation that we're all in, and that you need to make sure that you're mentally healthy also. Okay. That being said, if anyone feels overwhelmed or they feel like they need a little bit more support, please reach out to me. Okay, we're kind of all in this together, or reach out to your friends. More than happy to, I don't know, connect with you and make sure that everything's okay. All right, I care about all of you, and I hope you're all being safe. And I will see you tomorrow. All right, bye everyone.